To help find leaks in your home and in your car. Hopefully you don't have any. So, but this is basically what this is going to look like through your entire video. Now, I should be orange, red, and yellow, right? You guys can see the difference in my face versus everything else. So basically that means I'm the warmest thing inside the video. Everything behind me should be blue and black. Now that's just, it's gonna fluctuate based on whatever's inside the screen. So I'm gonna take me out of it. Let's take off my notifications of go to work, and it's going to fluctuate. So what are we looking for in here? Anybody want to take a guess? Why would we be using this on a ghost hunt? This only senses temperature. So we're looking for cold spots. Okay, so that old adage is true of ghosts create cold spots. That's what we're looking for on this. So in case something blue comes across my face, it's going to make sense that we obviously have something going on, and we're going to have to try to debunk it. Now, I will show you guys a video later where we actually did catch two ghosts. This is set to black, cold, white, hot. Two black figured ghosts walking by when there were people plain in view. You're going to try to keep a person in view at all times, and we're going to go over more things with our first location. That's a further deep, like tactical type train. Like this is basically to tell you what you're going to be looking for tomorrow morning. So you're going to hold that horizontal all night long. Do you see the red square on your screen? Yep. On your left side? So that means it's recording. So if it turns to a circle, it means it stopped recording. Tap it again and let me know.
Okay.
That way I have to splice your videos together, and then you'll be the jerk because that takes me way longer to get your video back. So that's usually the longest piece if somebody messes it up. It's not a big deal. I'm just teasing you, but it really doesn't take me that long. But it's just a little bit of an extra step I don't like to take. So let's go into spirit boxes. Who does not know what a spirit box is? Oh, okay, perfect. You're like, you kind of look like you're hesitant either. Perfect. So you're the ones that are going to get this guy. So spirit boxes allow us to communicate with the dead. Okay. It's gonna. You guys watch the TV shows. It's that really annoying staticky sound that they put out there, like a white noise machine. This is going to flip through all of the FM radio stations at a quick rate. I do have it slowed down on purpose. I want the radio chatter to come through. So you have to remember, white noise doesn't always create the voices we're going to hear. What you see on TV is days and days, sometimes weeks of work where they give you one EVP. I want a possible message that's going to come through in a phrase or a word from a radio DJ, a song lyric, or a commercial. So even if you hear one of those things from the radio chatter, you guys are going to let me know. Now the cool thing about this particular spirit box is that it records the entire session for us, even when it's on mute. So even when we can't hear it, it's still recording. You're going to get the full recording back. I'm going to give you about 5 to 10 things that I actually heard. If it's relevant, I'll give you a verifiable link of where I got the information. Based on our location, something happening within our tour, London's name pops up and says quit playing on your phone, you know, those kind of things. So that's the kind of things that I'm just giving you a gist of, like, that's something that might actually pop up. So let me go ahead and set this up to record, and then I'll turn it on just so you guys can actually hear what it sounds like. Obviously, you hear I'm not a very big projected talker. So when I'm talking and telling you guys the stories, we're going to keep the spirit boxes down because it's still recording at any rate. As soon as it wants to start working. Perfect. So you can see it sweeping through the radio stations now. I heard stay home, but you guys are staying with me. So I also want you guys to keep in mind, this is not a scary tour, okay? It's really not. This is really about the science, and when we do find something, it's exciting. So, like, people come on this tour thinking, I'm going to go something, I'm going to be scared and touched and scratched. No, that's not what this is. So we're not here to provoke. We're not here, like, I only say that because you do look like, oh my God, what is he handing me? The demon's in the box. This is really, truly not one of those, like, I'm going to jump out and scare you type mentality. So you have one button to worry about. It's the volume button. Okay, and it's a little turnstile at the very top. There's a little click button, that's the power, and then right next to it is the volume. So it's already recording, so that one's going to go to you guys. Amy's all curious about the spirit boxes, so I think you need one too. What do you think?
Sure.
Her name's Amy, by the way, because you missed it.
Yeah.
So this one does not record. Okay. However, Steve's, I got names right. Sorry, I'm horrible at names. Steve's audio is also recording from the video. So as long as you guys stick together, we will hear what you hear. So this one works a little bit differently because we have an attached speaker because it can't do much on its own. So I already have it set to sweep. The power button for this guy on the speaker is on the side, and then on the very top, there's a little toggle switch.
Okay.
Come on. There we go. You have to keep tapping it in order for it to go, for the volume to go up. And I just charged. There we go. So you kind of see where I'm going with that?
Yeah.
So if you want to, you could just use the volume up and down. Or if we have friends that want to blast music for us, that's great too. But otherwise, you can turn it off and then keep going back and forth. But if you just want to keep using that, that's fine. So again, you want that radio chatter. I'm going to teach you guys how to ask questions on those things too. This is not a, hey Billy, why'd you kill Joey type mentality. Like this, we're going to find some relevant evidence. So you need something now. He's like, oh, yeah, I need some proof too. Don't worry, Santa's got a whole bag of tricks here. Kind of getting the gist of that. I know that it's
trying
funky,
to figure
it's
it out.
new, yeah. We had a different speaker on there that you couldn't hear at all, and it, like, I was like, I got to do something different, something I can charge. So instead of the battery. You guys seen these on the TV shows, right? The EMF meters. So they never explain how they actually work though. So this actually measures 3 different types of electromagnetic fields. The first one is natural, comes from the earth. Doesn't do anything, okay, because it's natural. The second one is going to be from electronic devices, all the things that we're holding. Also keep in mind, not one of you is holding a mechanical device, meaning dowsing rods, tarot cards, Ouija boards, things that only you can tell us of what's happening. I want scientific evidence. This guy, from those mechanical devices, cell phones and wiring and parking meters, it's going to go into a pulse. We don't want that. If I can tap my finger and find a rhythm to it, no good. We want this thing to go Christmas tree, light up all over the place. When it does that, then we might actually have something. You look like you have a question, Steve.
No.
Oh, so
I just look like that all the time.
It's just normal face.
Yeah.
don't ask him any questions. I would just give you that.
Normal face.
Like I asked. So I don't get excited when one device is going off. Now, granted, this is our first indicator that something else is happening with another device, whether the ones I'm going to use or something you guys are using, but we might not catch it in real time. So it is exciting when this thing lights up like a Christmas tree, like, oh, sweet, something's going on. But that also means I need to listen to the spirit box and watch the video closer the next day, so forth and so on. I don't get excited with one thing going off. That's why I go at it with everything I have. Okay, so that's going to go to you. I will tell you when certain places, like parking meters, like, hey, we're going to walk on East Bay Street. Don't get excited. Like, I'm not going to say, oh my God, it's right here following us. You know, I'm not that guy. This is not, like I said, my gimmick is honesty. London, what do you want to use?
Zebra.
London, let's see what London's going to use. Because we didn't really give her anything last night. To debunk the things that you're going to see, for example, I do have different types of thermometer and temperature guns, just to kind of help either prove or debunk the things that Steve sees on the camera. So if he sees something in real time and says, Nick, there's a blue spot on the wall, I can find out if it's actually on the wall or if it's floating between him and the wall. So we will pull those out when needed. They're not as exciting as some of the other things. You want some lasers? Think you can keep that out of jail?
Colors.
Okay. So we do
I'm usually
use.
the fun one.
So lasers usually don't go to the kids, but London knows better. So the lasers can put Nick in jail. Like they're that serious. So this one is actually the neuralizer for Men in Black. So I'm going to have you guys stare at this. So lasers are really cool because they help us see things that we can't see with the naked eye.
Cool.
So we can only see when things pass through it. Okay, so how kind of see how there's nothing.
Yeah.
So I usually do a demonstration where I blow smoke through it, but London knows where and when we can use these. So there's number one. So the second thing is don't get Dad in trouble. There is actually a laser law in Charleston.
Oh, really?
So if it's flashed in the wrong way, like that thing can shoot all the way down the street. We can see it plain as day. Like that's how strong it is. Like it's pretty bright. So again, usually doesn't go to kids.
Yeah.
I know.
I am very mature.
This one is a little bit different. This one gives us red squares. The reason why we use something like this is in case we catch something right here and one of us is quick enough to actually take a picture of it, or it shows up on Steve's video, then I can take that piece of media and throw it in 3D software, and then you have a full 3D view of what we caught.
Oh.
So we haven't caught anything with it yet, but we have caught plenty with the green one. So again, this one is about, I don't know, about 4 months old. I got this right after they released this from COVID, so June, July. But yeah, this one's really cool. Just haven't caught anything with it yet. Now, these are also meant to be set up in a room. You click them on, and you put a camera on them, and you walk away and watch the video later. So if something then passes through it, or one of the lines move, or something like that, then you know you actually caught something. They're not always meant to be used while we're in motion, the way we're going to be using them. But London will kind of show you guys some things when we go to our next lot. So I'm going to use a couple things. Yeah, we're all going through something tonight.
Cool.
You guys all have masks with you, I hope?
Yes.
Okay. So cover COVID crap real quick. Not that obviously none of us are getting tickets tonight, but they are offering $100 tickets at no warning. So I'm not going to be paying your tickets. You're not going to be paying mine, or London's. Maybe London's. I might divvy up London's among you. I do have epilepsy. It's very difficult for me to have this thing on for more than 10 minutes. So if I have to work closely with you, I will mask up, but don't expect me to stand there for more than 10 minutes. So some places I will say, for more popular areas, we're going to mask up, just so none of you guys get a ticket. Your devices have been sanitized. I do that 3 times a day. I'm not COVID fearful, but I do this for y'all, because I don't know who is or who isn't. I can't play guessing games. I do have extra masks in case you guys need them, and I do have hand sanitizer in case you need that. So hopefully that cop is not coming back to come and see me. Alright, so the tools I'm going to use. So in case your EMF, actually the battery's drained, I have a backup on my phone. Yes, it does work. It's not as sensitive, but in a pinch, it's nice to have. I'm going to use 2 different types of spirit boxes on my phone. So this one actually gives us a word list right here in the center of the screen, and then it'll save it to a full list that you guys will receive the full list. Now my last group only got 50 words. I usually get about 50 to 60 in a 90-minute time period. So we're going to clear them out because they already have theirs and start you guys off fresh. Now, 80% of this, absolute bullshit. Doesn't mean anything, okay? It's meant to be a game or a hoax. The other 5 to 20%, I can link it with verifiable evidence from reliable resources of why it's relevant. And it's usually based off of the location of where we are, somewhere close to where we are, with an additional story that I may or may not have told you. Again, you have to remember, I study Charleston, so that's kind of my living. So again, I will give you those verifiable links and tell you why it's relevant. And the other one I'm going to use is called Reverse Spirit Box. So I debunked this one as well. They said it was FM radio stations like yours and yours, but being flipped backwards. Well, I didn't hear any music, and I only heard the same 2 voices. So I put it in my software and I flipped it forwards. It's a man and a woman saying random words. I don't know how long the loop is. That's all it is. They flipped it backwards. Do I get relevant evidence from it? All the time. And I will show you a few things. But here's what it sounds like. Sounds like complete gibberish. Okay? So when it sounds like complete gibberish, when something comes through in forward motion, and it's a direct answer to a question I may have asked, then you know you actually have something. So this is an EVP I caught that I was talking about a woman from England in the 1700s, which you guys are going to hear the same story tonight, but this is what it sounds like when it comes through in forward motion. We'll wait for the truck to go by. Keep in mind, I always repeat what I heard in real time and then say rewind by 5 seconds. So you're going to hear the EVP, then me. So kind of keep that in mind. Baked beans breakfast. So here's what happened. Your spirit box told me, I'll fix you. Baked beans breakfast. The word list gave me the word tea. I'll fix you, baked beans breakfast, and tea. That is a breakfast in the UK. Even back in the 1700s, all the way up to today. It made no sense to me until I looked at it as a collective the next morning. They were, all those 3 phrases were all within 2.5 minutes of each other. One full sentence. Again, happens all the time. So, actually last night, I forgot to tell you about this piece from last night's tour. I got Her Name Is on the spirit box, but the name Charlotte showed up about a 30-second time frame window later. I can't find a relevance to the location of where we were at, but her name is Charlotte. So, don't know what it means, but it was there. It's a full phrase. Alright, so you guys want to hear some ghost stories? Because that's why you guys all came, right?
Yeah.
Alright. So, you guys are standing at a haunted location. Imagine that.
That's why I figured we could start here.
There's a lot of reasons why we start here. So, this place used to be called Big John's. Big John was a football player from the 1947 Giants. Now, Steve, how long have you guys lived here?
I've lived here all my life.
I live here since '94.
Okay, so this would have been, should have been still been Big John's until, what, 2012?
Oh,
I
okay.
think that's when it burned down, and then it became Kane Rum Bar in 2016, I think. But anyway, so Big John, New York Giants. His last name was Kennedy, not Candy, like John Candy, but John Kennedy. And he used to sit in the back of the bar, and he would tell the bartender if the cadets that came over from the Citadel, if they were of age or not. If they weren't, he'd have them cut off. So one night, 2 guys come in, they're not of age. He tells them to cut them off, they get pissed, they leave. The next night they come back, they try to steal the cash register from the front of the bar. John sees what's going on, a little bit of wrestling goes on, a couple of shots were fired, John gets hit in the neck with a bullet, and it ricochets and lands in the wall. John gets up and goes back to the bar and he says, get me a beer, get him an ambulance. Nobody died. It's the bullet hole that's still here that haunts the building. They say that people that sit in the front can get a little nauseous, queasy, headache, any kind of small ill will, okay, as we want to call it that way. I bring this story up on purpose. What's that? Considerably. So, she likes to interrupt me and poke. Okay, notice she's a teenager. She likes to do that a lot. And she'll raise my arm a lot, like I'm going to throw my phone. So I bring that up because I don't know how paranormal activity is going to affect any of you, okay? It's not meant to scare you guys, it's literally a health hazard. So it can be. I've had people not make it through the tour by either passing out or just saying, my head is pounding, I have to go. The first time somebody passed out on me, I was in CPR class the next day, and it wasn't the last time it happened. So I'll just say that. So if any of you are not feeling well, please speak up for the person that's not feeling well. Because they'll say, no, we'll keep going, and then it gets worse. So please speak up, it's a big deal to me. Let's talk about something happier other than our own sicknesses, right? So we had an earthquake in 1886, that's happy, right? Yay! Where's the props now? So the mantling above your head also wraps around the front of the building. Now everybody usually ducks away from the wall at this point because the earthquake and the mantling usually says, oh shit, I'm gonna get hit. But a piece of it did fall off in the front of the building and allegedly struck somebody in the head, and that was the first death from our big earthquake of 1886. Now,
Darn gravity.
I know, right? Now that's a big deal for Charleston because we don't get earthquakes. So again, I don't have proof of that, nor can I dug and dug and dug trying to find this. Threshold. That's interesting. Maybe it was above the threshold of the doorway. Interesting. So, but the previous owner of this bar, Paul from Kane Rum Bar, he used to see dark apparitions out in the middle of East Bay Street after closing. So I kind of have to take his word for it, and I can't find anything to disprove it, or can I find anything to prove it? So take that for what it's worth. You guys ready to go something?
Yeah.
Yep.
You guys tired of hearing me talk?
Oh, no.
Good, because we got at least more an hour or so of this. Let's go. We're gonna have this one.
I know, I'm scared. I want to be in the back.
The person in the back always gets it.
Don't worry, I do a head count every time we stop.
Back here, you never believe.
I definitely do a head count every time. I've had some very, we'll just say, jovial people with the bending of the elbow. I turn around and I mix them half my team.
I bet.
They have to, because we walk by Maxwell's. So there's an extra bar there. All right. Head count. We lost London.
Yeah.
London was the last one, right? All right. So I want you guys to all kind of picture the peninsula of Charleston in your heads right now. It was much skinnier back in the 1700s. So for you history buffs, this isn't a haunted tale. It's just a piece of history that's close by. So Revolutionary War, ship rolls up, shoots a cannon, lands at the stop sign. We're over there right past Brew Cafe, which is maybe half a block around the corner. They did find pieces of the cannibal. No deaths, no tragedy. It was a neighborhood, so it probably was pretty darn scary. But I don't even get paranormal activity there. But for my skeptics, I have to appease you too. So I'm going to throw you some history. So, but where are you guys standing now? This is the Red Barn line. Okay, I know we got kids here. So they're probably like, what do them people do? This is where we keep the horses for the carriage rides. Okay, so the horses are still in there. London knows no lasers on the building. So the only history I have here and why it's such a great piece of training for you guys is that the only piece here is that this is where they kept the horses that delivered milk to Charleston. So that dates it for you like 1860 to 1920 maybe. Like that's my guesstimate. That's all I got. That's the only piece of history that's here. However, I do get all kinds of activity here based on Big John's teammates. I actually connected with one of his teammates from his death date of November 20th. Yesterday was November 20th. He gave us the number 44 and his first name was Frank. So 44 and Frank, I looked him up on the roster. Boom, November 20th was his death date. Made complete sense. Happens all the time with dates. So I don't know what the dates are until I start diving in. Again, I learn all kinds of things on these tours. You're getting stuff already. So that's a good sign. And it does say the word significant. So,
Oh gosh.
so let's kind of go through what we're going to be doing in here. First off, with your thermal imaging, you have a ton of different types of material in here. You got metal, asphalt, vehicles, brick, foliage. You're going to learn a lot about thermodynamics, and I'm going to work with you first individually.
Okay.
Focus right now on the spirit boxes because you're going to be using them the rest of the night, but you need to know how to use them. So again, this isn't a hey Johnny, why'd you kill Billy? We're going to start off with things that are simple. So you stay away from yes or no questions at all times because they're too easy to guess that that's what you heard. S and O are two of the most common sounds in our phonetic English language. You say is somebody here, somebody says no. First off, that means somebody's here. But if they said houses, you think you heard the word yes. Does that make sense? That's why we stay away from yes or no. So we all know that the barn is red. Okay, this is the same example I give to everybody. You're going to ask something you know. Can you tell me what color the barn is? You're going to wait 30 seconds and listen in on your static that's sweeping through all your stations. If you don't get an answer after 30 seconds or so, ask the same question again. These are spirits. They can't just talk the way we do. If they want to relay a message into a different realm, they have to muster up that energy. Give them the time to do so. So ask it 2, 3, 4 times if you don't get an answer. If at that point you still don't get an answer, first off, they're not in the box. You don't need to talk to them anymore. They're a person. At least they once were. Say, okay, you don't want to tell me what color the barn is? Tell me what's inside the barn. That just opened up a whole new can of worms because we have, well, first off, we all know there's horses in there, okay? But that's an animal. They're draft horses. They were delivery horses back in the day, and they delivered milk. So you can get any of those kind of terms to put the clues together. So it's not a specific word like red. Okay, you kind of see where I'm going with this? Start off with something simple so you know what you're listening for, but that second question, go after something that broadens it up for you. The next location we go to, I'm going to give you example questions, but I'm not going to give you what the answers are, because they're going to be more historical things based on the land of where we're going. So that way, you don't have a suggestive thought. I also want you to keep in mind that when you guys are asking questions, the answers can go anywhere. We have 4 spirit boxes running and 2 pieces of audio. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. You say, what color is the barn? And I'll walk away from you. The color red can come up on my audio later, but we won't find out till the morning. Or I might ask a question of like, hey, what color is my shirt? And you say, I just heard the word gray. We are 50 yards away from each other. So there again, you have the proof. I asked the question, you got the answer. That kind of makes sense to everybody? All right, so I'm going to work with you guys first. London, do you want to go with them? So you're going to kind of wander and stay within the lot. London's going to hang out with you guys first and maybe show you some more tricks with the lasers. Don't cross the streams. Bad Ghostbuster joke, but it always works. So, but let's go ahead and start with, follow London. Go ahead and just keep away from that corner for me, please. It's a little darker than it needs to be. Darker in sense of what we're doing here.
Yeah.
I don't know what goes on up there, but if I get things attached to me, they usually come out of there. Or something that somebody brought with them. So we're going to teach you about thermodynamics. Go ahead and let's go over here, and I want you to point your camera at the wall. What color do you see?
It's red.
All red?
Yeah. Well, there's some blue.
Yeah, a little bit of blue.
Yeah.
But watch what happens when you put somebody in perspective. Do you see how the whole thing fluctuated and now you have an array of colors?
Yeah.
Because it wants to find the hottest and the coldest spot. So the reason why you had red and blue and not like black and white is because it's still kind of like, oh, okay, this kind of makes sense. That's why I always say try to keep somebody in view at all times, if you can.
Okay.
One of the, for example, the video I'm going to show you is something from the next location. We caught this a few months ago now, but it's still probably one of the best pieces of evidence I found with that particular. Sorry, I should always have this thing prompted. All right, so the orange that you see here is a wall. You're going to see 2 living people walking by, just their heads. Do you see them?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so we're going to fast forward by about 10 seconds. You're going to see 2 dead people going the opposite way. Did you see it?
Oh,
yeah.
Above the wall.
Yep.
Yeah.
You're going to see just their heads above the wall. There's always a person in perspective. So they should have been the same color.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's kind of like what you're looking for.
Okay.
The reason why they called me up there was because they thought they seen a shadow up there. My first thought is I went up there to go debunk things. It was a reflection off this lamppost from a car going by or something along those lines. But then I reviewed the video the next day and I was like, oh shit, they actually did catch something. So I saved it, clipped it out, and now it's a piece that I can show you guys every single time. I love that thing. I don't get a ton of evidence from it, but it is a nice piece of audio because there are times where we are going to separate a little bit. You might get a piece of audio that we don't get here later. Right. So, but you have your spirit box, you kind of have a gist of the questioning. I'm going to try to do a little bit with mine. We're going to spend maybe 5 to 8 minutes here, give you guys a few minutes just to get a gist of what's going on with your devices, and you're going to do nice slow sweeps, only because the camera technology is not up to cell phone technology. It's really the thermal imaging. So if you move too fast, it will pixelate. It will calibrate, which is what it's supposed to do, which means it'll pause for a second and then start back up again. But you don't want that pixelation because that gives me false positives, which is what we don't want. So nice slow movements. After our next stop, we do walk like 4 blocks. You don't have to go slow there. Just kind of keep up with us and that kind of thing. Okay. So go play with your spirit box and see what you can get out of it, and I'll follow up with you in a few minutes.
Sounds good.
So we'll make a believer out of you yet, man. Using the red one. I just heard Steve. Your name came through clear as day. Let me see your green one. Show them the smoke.
Yeah, it just felt like real cold. It's like ice cold. Like I got chill bumps.
What color is my sweater?
I lost it. How to feel cold. Yeah. I felt it like this went through me.
What color is my sweater?
Yeah, it's throbbing.
It's moving.
Oh, my back. It's like ice cold on my back.
It is totally. Look at this.
Yeah.
Look. It just went from 63.8 down to 62.2.
Yeah. It's so weird because I'll feel warm and then my back feels like ice cold.
61.8. It's moving, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So yours measures ambient temperature. So wherever my red dot lands is the only thing it measures. That's why I said for you to hold that to see kind of like where it's at. So what's the bottom number say now? 69. So I'm at 60.9. And now it's going back up.
Communicated.
It just went up 3 degrees.
It said a message communicated.
Holy cow.
He's been going crazy this whole time. It's still, yeah, dropping 68.
It's staying steady, like right around. Now it's cold right here. It just went up like 5 degrees. Literally. Went from 61 to 66. And I come out here and 61 to 62. It can't be because the light is on. There's no way to
sudden it was like I just felt like ice and the cold chills.
What's crazy over here? It's ice cold right here. Got every lot over here.
Oh gosh, look. I'm about to come out and said,
Did you hear anything on your spirit box? I mean, I know there's a little bit of a breeze here, but I'm feeling like you said, like little ice chills. And I normally don't go into what I feel. Like it's all about the data. That's why it's whipped out the thermometer is pretty quick. But it's warmer in here. So now it's gone. Now it's going back up to 65. This whole area varies.
Hello, I'm recording.
Yeah. Okay, just went down to 60.
Just heard. I said, what's in the barn? And I heard red.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh. What is Steve doing?
Got all the colors over here. This thing's blown up too.
I did hear something. I said, what is Steve doing? And I heard camera.
Camera?
Did you hear camera? Because I did get his name earlier.
Yeah.
Like plain as day.
Camera.
Alright. Not that this isn't a hotspot. It's also a history. So does everybody obviously kind of just how your devices work? Like I'm super excited. London showed a little bit of video. I have like this thing is just blowing up. I normally get maybe 4 or 5 terms here. I've got 20.
oh goodness.
So again, just kind of like the temperature thing is even calm my mind.
Yeah.
Normally you don't see fluctuations like up and down like that. It went from all the way from 66 down to 59. So to me, like more than 5-degree difference within a few feet, that's a big deal. So hopefully Steve has caught something with the camera that I can analyze a little bit further.
Have you seen anything with the camera? Mm-mm.
You guys ready to go learn some real history?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, let's head out this way. That was a lot of fun.
You said this is recording even though we have it turned down. Like,
Yep, nice and even for you. So when you get it in the morning, you'll have the whole thing at one volume. That's why I bought it. I love that thing. So when I do my own investigations, I'm not going out at night and breaking into museums and shit. Like I put that thing in my pocket, and I have the EMF in my pocket, and then the camera is usually sticking out of a cargo pocket with the top just hanging out.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody knows what I'm doing, and I can still review all the data later, and I can enjoy the museum all at the same time. I'm just geared up. That's all there is to it.
cool bill.
Yep. Well, I have a smaller satchel than this, so nobody knows what's in it. Oh, watch step. Good. I can take you to all the prettiest spots in Charleston. Check out this awesome parking lot.
Yeah.
We are going to keep in mind, guys, it looks like we have our friends back at the gate. They are sleeping. I'm pretty sure they're without homes. We'll just say that. We're not going to label anybody tonight. But where are you? This is the Eliza and Charles Pinckney mansion site. So you guys live here, you know the name Pinckney pretty well, I'm sure. So who the heck were they? Charles and Eliza. They had a son named Charles. They had a nephew named Charles. The son and the nephew were signers of our Constitution. Pretty big deal for Charlestown. But I hate politics. It's 2020. Let's talk about Eliza. Let's move on. So Eliza married Charles at a young age, and you can find out how. And keep in mind, I'm giving you verbal clues of things to ask on your spirit boxes. So it's also relevant because it's the same number as her birthday. So that's a number that shows up here often. But anyway, she got married because her dad was sick over in England. Baked beans breakfast that I showed you guys earlier. This is also the same place for the video I showed you. I'll show you guys here shortly. But Dad thought he was dying. He wanted all his kids home. She didn't want to go, so she got hitched and she stayed here. So things are going better. Dad gets better. He didn't die right away. So he starts sending gifts over from England. One of those gifts happened to be the plant indigo. Eliza was a botanist. Her garden would have been lined up with that first tree over there all the way across. The mansion was in the front facing East Bay Street. We are standing in the servant quarters. So indigo has a deep culture in Charleston with our Gullah culture. Gullah culture are the slaves we brought over from Africa. The Pinckneys owned slaves that knew how to cultivate this plant in our odd weather. So indigo makes blue dye that makes our blue jeans blue. Most of us are wearing it tonight. We still use it. So it's a pretty big deal for Charleston. Eliza used Daddy's contacts over in England to sell the plant and the dye overseas, making her a businesswoman in the 1700s, which is something you never heard of. It wasn't even a thing back then. So I'm just scratching the surface of the things that Eliza has done for our country, but that one's pretty huge. But there's a couple of weird facts about Eliza that she likes to talk about with our spirit boxes, cameras, and voiceovers. So a couple things. Notice every time I say her name, it goes to red. So Eliza was the second wife named Eliza from Charles. Back to back. Chuck obviously was a ladies' man. Eliza, both of them actually go by their maiden name. So it's Eliza blank Pinckney. Last night, by the way, we did get the indigo Eliza's maiden name. Yeah, pretty cool stuff. So you can ask what the maiden name was, and maybe you'll get one of two answers. I do know them both. And yes, I will give you all the answers to these questions before we leave here. So what else about them? Do not ask about her children other than the daughter, okay? Last night, I had a guest that started poking around with the other kids, and the rest of the night was pretty weak, I will say that.
Was pretty what?
It was pretty weak as far as activity.
Oh.
So everything kind of stopped for the rest of the night. So their tour did not bring about much evidence, I'll be honest with you. So don't ask about any other kid but the daughter. Just find out what the daughter's name was. So it's a nice, simple question. Hopefully you get the answer. You can find out what happened to the mansion. Keep in mind that was after both Charles and Eliza's death, so the house was still in the family, but you can find out what happened and why it's no longer here. I'm trying to think what else. Oh, Eliza's death. Ask anything you want to. Her age, what she died from, where she buried, where did she die, and then you can ask which U.S. president was a pallbearer at her funeral. Pretty important lady. So again, I get all these answers consistently, more than once. These are, at first it was kind of like, all right, this is Charles and Eliza Pinckney's old house. Go find out what happened. Now I'm giving you specific questions of things I've gotten all the time. So we are going to kind of separate into our teams to where we are now. London, if you want to bounce around with anybody, you can. But nobody else has a laser besides London, so we're good to go. Some vehicles can be pretty sensitive to lasers, so I usually run a person do not shine on. And we're going to stay away from that gate because he's up there groaning right now. I can hear him. He's probably pissed that we're here.
They were arguing earlier.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Share the blanket. So,
Yeah.
But is our light going? It was a few minutes ago.
It's not.
So there's a light on the back of the Five Church restaurant. Who went there to eat? We did. You did? Yeah. Okay, so that place is haunted too. Stuff like the bottles like to fly off the walls and all kinds of things. Yeah. I'm surprised the waitress didn't tell you. But there's a light back there that will sometimes flicker. You can see right now that it's off.
Five Church?
It was flickering when we came up here. And it is a pretty weak floodlight. And it's kind of the energy that pours out of here affecting that light, and it's usually in sync with whatever's going on with our EMF meter. He can hold it up like a selfie, and if it was blinking, they would be in sync within 2 frames of the video. So pulse on his hand, and then pulse out there. Pulse on his hand, then out there.
Is it just underneath that red light?
Yes.
Okay, I see it flashing barely. Yeah.
Well, again, it's almost my barometer of how much activity we're going to get out of here, but
Yeah.
it was blinking when we walked up.
Yeah.
I always watch it first to see what's going on with it, so I can point
Oh,
it out.
I see it. So see
Right
see
under
the little
the dot.
red dot? It's right underneath it. You,
Oh, okay.
right, not the box, but do you
It just
see it's
blinked.
like a little, yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like a disco ball. I don't like doing what it feels like. So we'll see what happens. You hit 'em up, and if you find red spots, you guys can stick together. Stick with the red spots, and that's where your question and answer session should be.
Okay.
As far as you guys go, just keep doing what you were doing. Nice slow movements all the way around. Stay away from the gated community. That's funny. I came up with that one right now. So, I'm a comedian tonight too, apparently. So I'm going to do some Q&A on my end, so you guys have some extra audio to listen to. So again, I like to give you guys as much as I possibly can back. And I really need to advertise more that you guys get like a souvenir out of this. So
Yeah, I
a lot of
had no
people,
idea.
a lot of people come
Yeah.
on this like surprised tonight. So my new flyers that we're putting out, the new rack cards, all have like, hey, here's the stuff you get. It's all on the back, but I don't think it's on. And I take over the business on January, so it's all over the new landing page for like, hey, you're gonna get all this stuff, you know, for your ticket price. So, but anyway, let's have some fun in here. Again, nothing here is malevolent, so no need to be scared. Yeah, you guys should probably just stay right here.
Okay.
And if you want to, because you are standing in the servant quarters, you might not get a whole lot of answers from Charles or Eliza. Maybe go after some of the servants. I don't have answers because there's no list for it. But you might get some names. You might get what your occupation was. You might get if they had kids and how many, so forth and so on. Maybe you can just ask some things you do. But that's up to you guys. But let's have some fun. Where are you going to go? Okay.
I'll figure it out.
Okay. I'm going to see where they go so I can go in the opposite direction. I have a ton of parts. Oh, look at that.
What is Eliza's maiden name?
You have a time, sir? Time?
Do you have it, Tom?
You know what time it is?
Yeah, it's 7:40.
7:40.
You're welcome.
Very kind. Sorry about it.
Ah, no problem.
Where did Eliza die?
What's on my wrist? So the word wrist came up, and I said, "What's on my wrist?" And I got the word insect.
No.
That lot was flashing like crazy.
Yeah, that's what London said. Can you tell me what kind of insect that is on my wrist?
He's doing it again.
So easily what? Did you hear that? Tell me what kind of insect is on my wrist. I heard beetle. Is there a beetle on there too? No. Did you hear anything on yours? Nothing at all? Anything on yours? The nice thing is 'cause these spirit boxes can be very difficult to listen to. Yeah, so again, that's why yours is recordable, because I was getting, at the beginning of this tour, almost 2 years ago now, it was kind of like, I don't hear anything, It's like, that's okay, you know, but I don't have anything to prove it the next morning. At least with this one I do, because I do listen to it on a daily basis. But I'm gonna take that wrist, and insect was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I did ask when I was over there if she planted more than just flowers, maybe some vegetables, and I got the word initially. So maybe at the beginning she was planting flowers and vegetables, so forth and so on, but she wouldn't tell me anything further than that. I did get the word jasmine as we were walking over, which apparently we've gotten that before here when we've asked, what is your favorite flower? Jasmine.
I asked that too.
So
Yeah,
the answers to your questions, and just because it seems like it's getting, I mean, we're going to spend a few more minutes here, I think, even though it's getting a little,
crazy.
yeah, just because it is going a little nuts. Try to go forth with maybe what happened to the mansion. That's a pretty easy.
I did get, when I asked that, we heard, I don't know.
Okay.
And she, yeah, London heard it with me.
All right. So, trying to think. I'm going to actually head up towards that corner up there, just because things have happened up there in the past, and kind of stay clear of the friends up there in the corner. And I don't know why he's asking the time. I don't think he has anywhere to be.
No, I don't think so.
But that was my first thought was, where's he got to be?
What happened to the mansion that was here? Tell me what happened to the mansion.
How's it going? Huh? Okay.
So it just got cold. Like, this side's warm, this side's cold. Like, you can't figure out. London was like, my elbow's cold. I'm like, you know what? I'm feeling the same thing. Again, we don't normally get this variance in temperature. Like, I don't put my feels in this normally, but this is really odd tonight. I just wanted to kind of see what was
That is Jasmine again.
Oh, nice.
A couple times. And then I swear I got the name something Avia, like I was asked what the daughter's name was, and it was something that was like Avia or something. It was something Avia.
That's going to be loud on your audio. But I just kind of wanted to get a screenshot of what's going on here. I don't have a reference for your Avia. The daughter's name was Harriet. So I know that's a 3-syllable word. It sometimes can be difficult, but a lot of times that name will show up on my Spirit Box word list. Your thing has probably been going up this whole time, I guess. Alright, so the mansion caught fire. So it was up in that corner over there, second floor, and it was in the Great Fire of 1861, which took out pretty much the entire neighborhood. So we are still in the Ansonboro neighborhood right here. So it took out most of it. She died at the age of 70 by breast cancer in Philadelphia. So that's also where she's buried. So again, she likes to hang out here because this was her home, which raises the question of, do we actually go to cemeteries considering the name of this tour? No, you're walking through one. Because Charleston has had enough fires, enough war, and enough death here that you're always walking on somebody where they died anyway. And if you were dead, are you going to hang out where you're buried? Probably not. So I don't get a whole lot of activity in cemeteries. Magnolia, on the other hand, haunted as hell. If you have a chance to take that tour, do so. But go through with some of the apps and stuff that I'll give you at the end of the tour tomorrow morning. All of the stuff we're using, plus all of the apps that I use, are at the top of your data page because I get asked all the time. So they're all there, so that way you guys, if you have questions. George Washington was the pallbearer at her funeral. And the Eliza we're speaking of with the indigo was Eliza Lucas Pinckney. So the name Lucas did come up last night. The first wife, Eliza Lamb Pinckney, as in Lamb, L-A-M-B. And there's a lot of lambs that are local in the area, so it is a prominent name here in Charleston. So, what else did I have you guys ask? Is that about it? Did you get any answers out of
The
you?
service, I couldn't tell. It's so hard to pick. And then I feel like I'm thinking that I'm hearing things that I don't know what really am. So I
Okay.
have a lot of questions, but maybe you can take some minutes and listen to.
Listen. Unfortunately, your device doesn't record outside noises. So
okay.
I will have to, if I hear something,
Yeah.
you know, I'll put it in there. And if I feel like if it's not a Diamonds Direct commercial, which we often hear on our radio, then I usually say, oh, I've never heard that phrase before, and I jot down the timestamp. I also want you to keep in mind that the gender of your voices that you're hearing doesn't matter. It's just the words. Think of this as Bumblebee from Transformers. If you've never seen that movie, you should. But that's the way that these work. But we are going to go up about 4 blocks and walk up East Bay. It's definitely a mask-up area. We're going to be walking by some restaurants. If you want to listen to your spirit boxes, we are listening for names. I'll explain when we get to Lodge Alley. This is a small group. You guys should be able to keep up. Sometimes I have to say where we're going if it's a large group of 10, which, by the way, I don't go up to the capacity of 20, which Charleston allows me to do. I keep it at 10 and under. Like, my next group is 8. So, and that's where I like it to be, 6 to 8, honestly. But we have London tonight, so she's helping out with the extra tools and gadgets. I'm really excited about these temperature changes. So if London was able to save that video for me, maybe I'll update it for you guys on your data, because that's kind of an extra piece that we don't normally get.
Video?
The video of the temperature changes.
Oh.
Sally. Friendly Sally. I don't know. To avoid our friends over there by the gate that obviously have somewhere to go by 8 o'clock.
We went
Stay
that
that way.
Alright, so we're going to cut through the gate then, and we're going to go up the road. Let's get those masks out if you want to, but I'm going to do mine so I'm not getting a ticket. See if we can get there in less than 10 minutes. I'm sure we can.
Steps.
Yep.
So, with tours, they want us to all mask up because you got all the videos. Me personally, I'm not COVID here at all. I'm like moving all over the country every day. You know, then when work is slow, I drive Uber Eats, so I'm still out and about. Well, I did get poisoned 3 times this summer, didn't I? We have a week's worth of tours. So the first one, we were on an investigation looking into the Francis Marion burial site, and I got poison oak. Highly allergic to it. So I toured with that. That was fine. And then she and I finally took the beach day, and she didn't spray me down all the way. So I had first-degree sun poisoning. Canceled a few tours where I couldn't walk. And then I got food poisoning for over 8 weeks.
Gracious.
And it was literally back to back to back.
Only one of those is my home.
Yeah. Yeah, my bad reviews are from the people that I had to cancel on. They're just mad because they couldn't go. So it wasn't even that it was a bad tour. They didn't get to go. Right there.
I heard the dude in the back.
It's all about you tonight, Scott.
Yeah.
Captain Skeptic.
A non-believer,
That's what's gonna
yeah.
come next.
That's it.
Chuck.
Chuck?
Chuck. Very clearly.
All about Steve back there. Get the thermal. I don't know what you did, buddy.
I don't know, yeah. Got him angry.
Just don't anything come home with them, please.
I just heard happy anniversary. It's our anniversary. I
Oh, no
swear.
kidding.
What's the timestamp on your video?
It's 102.
So, probably about an
23.
hour in. I'll have to look. That's pretty awesome.
Where I heard that.
That's funny.
That's her doctor. I'm a doctor.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Based on where we're going.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh.
I thought he was talking to me.
What?
You could. But we'll see what comes of that. There you go. Alright, let's line you guys up over there. Execution style again. Now that we're in a dark alley and I can get away with it. So, have you guys been here before?
Is this where the duel was?
No, that's the next one.
Okay.
Oh.
This is Lodge Alley. The hotel you're leaning on is Lodge Alley Inn. This is actually one of the oldest streets in Charleston. So the reason why, yeah, I got a couple. You did hear the word doctor, which is the doctor had duel in the next alley that we're going to. So that's why I said it's probably relevant to that. I do get things that are in relative form of how close we are to the location. Hey, how are you? So this is, again, one of the oldest streets in Charleston. I have the full list of residents of all the people that ever used to live here. So I listen for names that come up on that list. It's not long, and it's not a census. It's just first, last name, and what their occupation was and what year they lived here. The names I often hear are Benjamin and John. I think there's like 4 Johns that lived here at some point in time. You gotta imagine 1800s, it's a pretty popular name. But there's only one Benjamin. So when Benjamin and John show up together, they both lived here in 1801, and they were 2 out of 4 residents that lived here. So, review. See how she bumps me? And she didn't raise my phone this time. Rude little. Love this kid. I do. Honest. So, it's interesting to see what other names pop up, and then we do get things like fishermen, or because there was a lot of mariners that lived here, they consider these people lower class. Again, Peninsula of Charleston was skinnier. Those buildings we see down there weren't there, which means low tide would have been coming right through here, and that's a bad stench. So if you haven't experienced low tide, turn the other way when it does. It's horrible. But who would want to live where low tide is blowing right through? They did do an archaeological dig in between the clay bricks that you're seeing here. So notice that these are all handmade, hand-laid bricks. They're not the same shape, size, they're not spaced evenly, but they found some of their tools, their silverware, and little pieces of their clothing, and that's how they were able to determine that they were actual lower class. The Masons also used to meet down here, so when this was open air, there was no buildings, they would come down here on a hot, sticky night at Charleston, suits and suspenders, talking business. It's an interesting location, so the fact that we're getting things for the next location, this happened last night too, so I was walking and I got towards the end, I'm trying to think of what term that I got. Oh, I got gun, and then I got legal. So it was a duel between a doctor and an attorney. So we're going to talk about them next, but it's very interesting the things that I get here. There is a vehicle at the end. Oh, that's pretty cool. Vehicle down there at the end. They're not supposed to be there. Looks like the right side might be a little bit wider, so we're going to stick to the right wall. If any of you are picture takers, there's a great shot of St. Philip's steeple towards the end of these alleys, so if you stick to the right-hand side, you can get it centered within the two old buildings, which makes for a beautiful shot. So when I have my groups of 10, there is a digital camera, so I do have them take touristy photos for y'all. You guys have better cameras on your cell phones anyway, so by all means, I'll point out a few. Like, we're getting ready to hit some of the more popular spots that are a little bit more haunted, and they're not parking lots. So, but yeah, let's walk through the end of here. Let me know if you see anything weird out of there. Did you hear anything along the way?
Chuck.
Chuck? Look up Charles. Let's see what comes up.
What do you mean, Charlie?
Remember how to get to the resident?
Yeah, I think I see.
Okay. Teaching her the ways. Of course, she has an iPhone, so I don't know how to organize it. I don't touch Apple products. My wife buy that one. Like, yeah, I'm not doing Apple.
Yeah,
So,
well, I wanted the phone, so I haven't heard back.
yeah. All right. I had to make up for stealing 12 and 13. All right, let's go walk up this alley. Let me know what you guys hear. We are going to be in a residential area when we walk out of here, so we want to keep those to an audible level.
18 and 19.
18 and 19.
Keep it down.
It used to be 12, 13. I know we're on time. So, the story I'm about to tell, I think the doctor was 22. Which, by the way, that was the age Eliza got married, and it's also her birthday that I told you guys about earlier, December 22nd. So that number shows up there quite often.
I had 20 again.
So you guys are in luck because the moon is still relatively close to St. Philip's. So again, picture spot. Sorry, I do the touristy thing for you locals.
Nope, no Chuck.
No Chuck? No Charles?
Nope.
Okay. That's odd because there was a lot of Charles back in that time.
It's another croissant.
They're both me. They're going to compare later. I bet you one has Apple, one has Android.
Oh no.
That's a cool picture.
It is.
It's still
It,
croissant.
it comes when it's over the customs house too.
Yeah.
That's a great shot.
It looks spooky.
Yeah.
But
Uh-huh. I use that for social media all the time.
Yeah.
I have several shots of that. So, all right. So let's cut those spirit boxes down. Do you want me to take that thermometer
Yeah,
from you? So, kind of cool to whip that out at kind of the last minute to see what's going on. So, we're about to enter Philadelphia Alley. So, find the irony there where Eliza was buried, if you want to. But we named it Philadelphia Alley after dueling became stupid and illegal. Before that, it was called Dueling Alley or Dueller's Alley. Before that, it was called Cow Alley. This is where we used to keep the livestock when it was Charlestown. So, sorry, I'm trying to find the pocket where to put these guys. So, I got the word wolf. So we all tell the same story about the duel that happened here. So because we can actually prove it, we have legitimate evidence that it actually occurred. So this is a big hot spot for other tours when we walk through here. Granted, it is the most beautiful spot in all of Charleston, in my opinion. What?
Putting stuff down so I can get actual pictures.
Oh, jeez.
What?
I stay out here so I don't get interrupted, and then I bring the kid and I get interrupted.
You're welcome.
So, again, that's why I tell the story out here, so we don't get interrupted by all the other tours. This is their grand finale. So anyway, there was a doctor that moved down here from Rhode Island. So keep those initials in mind. R.I. from Rhode Island, because it comes up again later. It can show up on our spirit boxes and audio again. So he was supposed to get married to Amanda. Amanda just inherited a bunch of money from her dead parents. The attorney said, no, you're not getting married yet. Send the doctor away. So he comes down here to Charleston to prove that he's not just after Amanda's money. And he wants to start his practice here. The coachman that brings him here set him up to be robbed and killed. Not a very good start to his life in Charleston, but somebody walking by named Ralph Isaacs with the initials R.I. sees what's happening and he says, you don't want to stay here, let me take you somewhere else. Takes him over to 59 Church Street. That's the Thomas Rose house, about a mile and a half from here. So it's on the same block as the Big Steeple. So it kind of gives you a perspective. So, photograph. Look at that. Everybody.
Oh, wow.
So again, happens all the time. What's happening with our tour? So at any rate, so the two become friends and they start doing really well with the practice. So Ralph is an attorney, like I said before. So he's just a regular Charlestonian, but the doctor's practice is taking off and he's making lots of money and becomes known as the Whistling Doctor. So the Whistling Doctor, if you Google that, you'll get a very long, detailed version of the story, and it does make sense once I'm finished with the story why they call him that. So him and Ralph used to go see plays together. They had to sit in different seats because the doctor's in a different part of society. He makes lots of money, Ralph doesn't. So the doctor obviously gets better seats. They talk about these plays on the way home. One night they go see Richard III, I don't know which theater, and nobody can prove it. I don't care which tour guide you talk to. So there was dozens of theaters here in town at the same time. And Edgar Allan Poe's mother was also one of the actresses in town as well. So that kind of gives you a perspective. Sorry, writer, I got to bring up Poe every once in a while. So, but they talk, it's okay, right? So they're talking about Richard III. The doctor loves the new actress in town. Ralph does not. They start arguing, then it turns into an insult party on the doctor's fiancée. So they obviously get very pissed at each other and they go their separate ways. Now I told you Ralph is from here, so he calls his newspaper friends and he puts an ad in the paper about what a disgrace the doctor is to the city because he charges too much and he's not one of them. So obviously the doctor gets pretty mad and he rebuttals with, we're going to Dueler's Alley to settle this. And normally, us ignorant Americans in 2020, after watching Hamilton 20 times, we think of duels as somebody's going to die, right? That's kind of what we think of, somebody's going to get shot. When there was a death, they would go through that gateway. I don't know if you guys can see that on the opposite wall. They would go through the courtyard, over to St. Philip's Cemetery, they'd drop the body, and then go celebrate the winner. It's kind of how it went down. Normally, a duel was an act of bravery only. Shots were just shot into the ground or the air. It was just a matter of, I'm willing to take a bullet for what we're arguing about. And most of the time, it didn't happen. So here's what happened with the doctor and Ralph. They come down, they take their 20 paces, they turn, the doctor pointed his gun in the air, and he shot. He didn't want to kill his friend, just willing to forgive. He's willing to take that bullet, and he does, in the kneecap. Ralph didn't want to kill his friend either. He just wanted to make his point. So the doctor drops, and he's not carried over to his grave. He's carried home, a mile and a half from here, where he dies 10 days later. What's the moral? Don't get engaged to Amanda. You're gonna die. No, they say as you walk through the alley, you can hear the whistles of the doctor. We do have two that I can't debunk. We do have a lot of hecklers in town, a lot of the downtown people, they know the story. They give you the fake one, there's yours. So it's gonna be very faint, and it'll probably be melodic. It'll probably have a little rhythm to it. That's what I have in my previous ones. They also say you can hear gunshots. I called BS on that one. I've never caught a gunshot. It's too quiet back here. So this is why we use the different types of tools based on the audio pieces now. So if you're gonna listen to your spirit boxes in here, you're gonna cut them off if we cut through another tour, because it is pretty popular, and I'm gonna stay away from you, just so we have a clear audio for those kind of whistles. This is where you're gonna crank it up on your drive home, maybe after work tomorrow when you guys get home. If you work on Sundays, sorry. I assume people work every day like me. But the other piece of history out of here, which is really cool, I don't want to say it's really cool, but it shows how far we've come. The bricks in this lot, they've been refreshed and renewed at the, oh, interesting, we got big. Refreshed and renewed up here at the start, so they're going to be pretty smooth. The edges are going to be a little sharper, but when we get towards the end, those were sun-dried bricks from slave kids. We have their fingerprints and one full handprint towards the end. And I will point it out, it is outside somebody's home. So we will move quickly. If you want pictures of it, have the cameras ready. We're going to be brisk. I want you to take note of that handprint. The thumb actually overlays into the next brick. So if you really play the story out in your head, that kid put the brick in still wet and then slammed his hand into it. Kind of a screw you, I don't want to do this anymore kind of mentality. It's an interesting thing to see, and it does show how far Charleston has come. Now, the resident that lives there, he's grumpy. He will try to come out and say that they laid those bricks and planted them in 2001. Because there's more of them around town. They're in 2 other places, Drayton and... It's not Boone. We argue about this all the time. I gotta look it up. But they are in different places. I'll start to point out the fingerprints with my toe, but we are gonna be brisk near that area. Questions, comments, concerns? Pretty cool story, right? I'm pretty excited about you got doctor already, so that's good.
Before you said, like you started talking about why the bird, whatever it said, discuss.
Oh. Also keep in mind too that the doctor wrote poetry about his fiance and his life here in Charleston, and it was published by his sister Elizabeth. So again, more clues for your spirit boxes of things you could be listening for, because I do get like letter, poem, write. I get those kind of things. The book was published and it is available for about $42. So yeah, it's not a very long book. If something does pop up with our evidence in that regard, I do give you a free PDF of that. So there is a way to get it, and I do have the link to send it over to you so you can actually read it. It's a pretty interesting read. I've read most of it. It is written in Old English though, so unless you're an English guy like me, it can be difficult. So we're going to give you the creepy sound effect of the gate since somebody left it open, and we're going to take a hike through the prettiest place in Charleston, right after a creepy sound. We're going to head to the left. We're not going to be able to get all the pretty pictures either. There's a lot of different stuff.
Wait, honey, move it first.
This the alley. The alley. I can feel the energy in the alley right now. It's full of holes. Hello, guys. Good evening. How are you?
So I can see, look, I feel like there's something there. Very good.
Go ahead.
Oh, we're waiting for pictures, so you can take your pictures too?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I see it.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if I got it because I don't know what's going on. Yeah.
Uh,
everybody's name, and I'm like, damn it, I don't.
It smells good.
That does.
He's actually, he's been doing this a long time, so I've heard of him before. Like, there's some guys that have been doing this like 15, 20 years.
Wow.
So I made friends with a guy who does another tour, it's called Pleasing Terrors, and he runs a podcast called Pleasing Terrors. He's also a writer just like me, he just doesn't do the gadgetry work, but he called me a few months ago, and he was doing a piece on the old Provost dungeon, and he seen my investigation there and wanted to feature my tour and what I do for a living on his podcast. I'm like, hell yeah, dude, that's pretty cool. That's like 15,000 downloads. You kidding? So, Pleasing Terrors, if you guys want to check out, he's a storyteller. That's really what his job is. But apparently, these guys have been doing this stuff for a long time. So I'm still
He said that. He's like, I feel like you're like that's doing nothing. Like,
that one kid that said that they found an orb on a picture. So it does happen down there quite often. So when we have the alley to ourselves, I recommend you guys take pictures because orbs show up all the time.
We did that, right?
We did
We
the
saw orbs.
dungeon.
Yeah.
In the dungeon. Yeah, that's where we went. Yeah.
Down, like the Provost dungeon.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's where we were. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
probably one of the most haunted places we have, believe it or not. That's an inside job. Like, there's no way for just us to tour the outside of it. Like, the jail, we could do just the outside.
Yeah.
And you get plenty of stuff on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
But the dungeon, you got to be in it. Like, if you haven't done that tour, take it. It's amazing. And use some of the devices. So anyway, we're going to take a look at one last building. Sorry, I can't even keep track of this, folks. Did I say that out loud? I did.
Oh my goodness.
So the building that we're at now, this is the Wagner building. So the Wagner building right now is condos in the back. Obviously, we're leaned up against people's garages, and then they're turning the front into wedding reception area. And it will be considered waterfront. Good luck to those weddings, because the place is haunted as hell. I know, right? So it used to be a cotton warehouse here in the back, and then the offices for that business were in the front. The last guy who had it as a cotton warehouse, his name was George Poirier. And George, he inherited the business from his dad, clueless, silver spoon, didn't know what he was doing with the business, blew through his money pretty quickly, and then blew through his inheritance. So he's broke. He's got to get rid of this cotton. Then a boll weevil moves into town. It's a bug that eats cotton. So now he's screwed. He needs to get rid of the crop altogether, but he sells it to the British so it doesn't stay in the Americans. So because he wants to get rid of the boll weevil too. So he doesn't get the amount of money he needs to pay off all his American debts, but he's willing to get out. So they unload all the cotton onto the British ship that is where the Vendu and Pineapple Park is now, because obviously Charleston was much skinnier, and he can see everything that's going on. So he's overlooking, and all the cotton gets loaded. Once it's all there, somebody gets too close to the cotton with a pipe. Everything catches fire, then everybody dies. I know, very weird story, but George watches everything, and he's already depressed because his dad's gone, and he couldn't run his dad's business, but now his dad's legacy is gone. So he piles up all the furniture, and he puts a captain's chair on the top, and he climbs that mountain of furniture, swings a noose, and he hangs himself. So, newspaper kid comes down the next morning, sees what's going on, he goes back to the press to tell them that George Poirier is now hung. They say you can see the shadow of a swinging corpse in the windows where he hung himself. Now, your online stories will always tell you the third story. My data always says the number 2, second, runner-up, anything that deals with not the third story. So that's the thing, I always focus on the second story. Our camera cannot see through glass. It looks at glass as an object. Have you noticed that?
Mm-hmm.
So we can't see through it. So what are we looking for? Those windows are normally blue compared to a warm building based on the heat signature. So we're looking for those windows to turn a darker blue or black. You're just going to get us a nice slow sweep of the second story window starting with the curve. And you guys are definitely going to be listening to your spirit boxes for words like fire, cotton, ship, George, any of those things. We've also gotten depressed, we've also gotten loose head, all kinds of things. We do have another ghost that tags along because it is the same time period and it's relatively close. Where we came out of Philadelphia Alley, 2 blocks up, is a restaurant called Poogan's Porch. As locals, you guys probably know what that is. So Poogan's Porch is actually a dog. Poogan is the dog. And it was the construction crew that transitioned Zoe St. Amon's house into a restaurant that used to feed the dog. When the dog passed away, they made a memorial there because he did hang out on the porch waiting for scraps. So the new owner said, the memorial's already here, let's call it Poogan's Porch. That's why it's called what it is. However, it's the ghost of Zoe that likes to tag along. Zoe is of French descent. Her ancestors actually came over with the Huguenots, which actually started Charlestown, which is where you're standing, before it was Charleston. So We do get Zoe, as in Z-O-E, because that's how she spells her name, not Z-O-E-Y. We do get the word French. We will get the name Elizabeth, because her sister lived with her. And we'll get things wrapped around education, because Zoe was a school teacher. So, again, we get a lot of different clues that can pop up out of your spirit boxes and mine. So I am going to listen to mine ahead of time. You're definitely going to get us, some views on the shot. And then as far as your EMF goes, it's going to be irrelevant once we get to the front because of the parking meters. So I don't know if you noticed it was going crazy on East Bay Street, but the parking meters, the ley lines are underneath. So it does make it go off. So once we get to the front, you're pretty much out of the game. Sorry you lose. Man, I'm a good comedian tonight. I don't really come up with this witty stuff. And look at that, I got the word happiness, which is the exact opposite of what we're looking for. Yeah. I don't know who that is, but I got Traveler and Photograph right when we, all them people from that other tour were taking pictures.
Photograph too.
So that was interesting, and that's kind of a confirmation. That's nice. We did get Thermal from you.
Is that a rat?
More like any kind of rodent trap. Could be gophers over here for all we know.
Oh no.
Contact. Alright, so we are going to walk alongside of this building. Just keep in mind that it is condos. You guys can listen to your spirit boxes. They don't care. There might be some people outside smoking. And then we're going to check out the front and then call it a night. You guys can ask me as many questions as you want to once we get off the air. Anything dark or anything else that I may have done. London knows everything, so I just don't like, because some people will listen to this to get a gist. So I don't do the darker questions until after we're off the air.
Yay.
These two windows here where I've seen activity, and then the rounded window on the edge. So however you want to get that angle from crossing streets if you want to, I don't care. But again, we're just looking for those windows to turn a darker blue on their own. Now that's kind of a regular based on the things that are inside the screen there. So I bet if you moved a little bit more to the left, actually no, it's staying there. Like normally it would fluctuate. All the windows would move with the same motion, but that one has stayed pretty dark.
Yeah, it stayed dark.
Can you get a readout on the different windows? Put the crosshairs on each panel. Like give me the darkest panel and then go to a lighter panel. And then what are those?
54, 58.
So those ones are actually colder. Interesting. So, to somewhat skeptics, believers yet? Or you guys want to see all the evidence in the morning?
Yeah.
I think we got some really good stuff. Like, I'm excited. Like, you heard some really great words. She did too. I have to take her word for it though, because we don't have anything else recording. Now, scene came up about 3 minutes ago, but I did hear Elizabeth, and then she heard George, which is weird because this is a hit or miss location. It's either we get both of them or neither one of them. So, have you heard anything on yours?
When we were walking up, I heard haunted.
Okay. Well, this used to be the brewery too. So the brewery left because it just lost business from all the hauntings of the place. The taps would turn on by themselves, cold spots were coming through with no air conditioning, the furniture would move up on the third floor, like all kinds of shit went down here. And the fact that they're turning this into a wedding reception area, like just craziness. I did have a psychic on the tour last week, and she walked up and she's like, why am I seeing like there's no floors in here? Like she's like, I'm visioning there's no floors. I'm like, that's because the floors are being redone. It's literally an open space all the way up to the roof of the building. So like she was able to kind of sense that coming up. I'm like, yeah, probably the coolest thing you told me all night.
Yeah.
I love when psychics come on because sometimes they're wrong and sometimes they're dead on. So I'm not getting anything else coming out of this. And I let it run until I go back to the next tour. So that way, because I do pass up like Lodge Alley, the Pinckney Mansion site, so it has an opportunity to pick up more terms. And you guys are already, let me see where you're at. You're at 65 terms. So that's about average. Usually, like I said, between 50 to 65, 70 is about average. Sometimes I've had them go all the way up to like 95 or 100, which is just crazy. But I'm excited about the Red Barn lot. We'll see what comes out of that for sure. And the fact that we've heard so many terms out of Courtney over here. I am going to start collecting these devices. What other questions do you guys have for me? It's an hour and 40 minutes of audio.
Do you have any questions?
No.
So, give you guys the card to get to the website ahead of time so you guys can check things out. And then I will text whoever booked your tour, like just like I texted you this morning. That's the reason why I do that, to make sure you guys can receive texts. The direct link to your evidence, so that way you guys can start diving in, and I'll have a quick analysis on there. It's not that I just upload it and it's yours. I do dive into it to see what else is there, so we'll kind of take it from there. All right, so let's get your camera off. Good job.